I'm not a scholar or a historian or anything, but the main reason for this is because when you go into majalis and you meet people, when you are in programs and events and everywhere, some of the discussions come from some historical books which it's really disturbing, which is not factual and not coming up from reality. Some of these books are written by those who are knowing Islam more than us, but they are non-Muslims and they are trying to deviate things. Some of them are written by those Muslims who are inspired by such people, and some of them are from different school of thought, so they think they are doing a good thing, but in reality they are harming Islam. So the reason was that I said, well, why not should the little I've got some from here and there, I share it and I have others with me. And the main purpose was to have it not as a lecture and to have it as a halaqa. And halaqa, when Rasulullah was giving halaqa, it was historically the sunnah of Rasulullah it was discussion. So in the discussions, everyone can contribute. And then, yes, Rasulullah was teaching them, but then there were questions, there were more explanations from here and there, so they can more enlighten the topic. And this was more of a kind of an intellectual discussion. So that's why I thought maybe we will have it over here. So I thought this is important to have it. The main clarification that I should give is that history as itself is not a trustworthy thing. As itself, history is not a trustworthy thing. If you just go and read a history book, it doesn't mean it should be the truth. Unless one condition is fulfilled. Condition is what? Condition is it is not written because someone wanted to write a history or someone has some knowledge of history. No, it is written based on the remnants and tawatur. How do you say tawatur in English? Repeatedly, there is no breakup in chain of narrations. Like why we trust hadith? Because hadith has come to us through a chain of narrations. This chain has not been broken. The moment it breaks, we do not trust that hadith. The reason we trust Quran, when we say it has not been changed, because it has come to us, we call it chest by chest. From generation to generation, it was memorized. So from one generation to another, and all around the world, you can see it's clearly there is no the smallest difference in Quran that we have, alhamdulillah. It is because it was the chain of narrations. It was the non-breaking up of it, the tawatur. So if the history stands based on this tawatur or the remnants of the history, like we speak about Egypt, so what comes to your mind first? The pyramids, the mummies, all those other stuff that we talk about. So when it comes to these points, then you realize that yes, these whatever has been said there are remnants, there are some signs, there are some handwritings and everything, and it shows the time of the history. So you can trust it. So I repeat, history as itself is not something that you should trust fully, but when it comes to the main point, there are two things. One is the chain of narrations, that is not broken. The second is the remnants. So now with this we start the Islamic history, how Islamic history has been changed. What is the real Islamic history? It is my understanding out of it. Other ulama, everyone would have their own difference of opinion in terms of interpreting the incidents, but the main thing is the same, in-sha-Allah. You will find no one debating it, in-sha-Allah. So I start from the starting point as I had announced in the email, in-sha-Allah, how Islam started. All of us know, majority of us might have read a bit of seerah, right? When we have read a bit of seerah, what happens is that majority of us know that how Rasulullah sallallahu was, who came to world and who his parents were and how his upbringing were and stuff like that. But I'm focusing from the day he came out of Ghar Hira. When he came, the first person he made the da'wah to was who? Bibi Khadija, radiallahu anha. And she accepted it. Trusted her and accepted it. Then the second person was Ali radiallahu anhu, his cousin. He accepted it. The third was Zayn. Zayd was his servant, Khadim. And he accepted it. And the last one was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was one of his closest friends. He became his advisor, and in majority of places, like he has never left Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam alone. He was always with him, and he was really influential in the society. So what he did was, he made the da'wah to his closest friend, and then these friends were like Uthman bin Affan, Zubair ibn al-Awwam, Abdurrahman bin Auf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqas, Talha bin Abdullah. They listened to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu made the da'wah to them, and they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they accepted Islam. And so after that, Amr ibn al-Jarrah, who we know by the name of Abu Ubaidah, accepted Islam. And then Abdullah ibn Abdul Asad, who is famous by the name of Abu Salama, accepted Islam. Then Arqam ibn Abi Arqam, who is famous for his house, Dar al-Arqam, who made it as a center for Islam. And then Uthman ibn Maz'un brought Iman. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam continued the da'wah. In this da'wah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go to people's houses, and these Sahaba who are accepting Islam, at the same time he is training them. What happens is that the Sahaba would go make da'wah to people. Whoever accepts Islam, they come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam either would train them or would send Sahaba who had accepted Islam earlier, and they will train them. Because now when they want to pray, they want to go outside of the Makkah, the site of the Quraysh, and they will pray in the hills. And then when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam realized that the need is more than what they are doing right now, he established a markaz, and that was the Arqam, the house of Arqam. And it was not a public one, it was a secret one, but whoever was accepting Islam, they were coming over there. The purpose of this was to do few things. First, teach them Quran, and then encourage them to recite Quran all the time, and to lead the prayers for them, and to encourage them for tahajjud and everything. So this was a personal thing. The second thing was intellectual development. Intellectual development was these discussions that they were having about what's happening in dunya at that time around them. And they were all aqaid based. They were having these intellectual discussions, and they were going based on this training that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was giving them. Yeah, Muhammad, come here.
No, it's makura there.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah. So, JazzakAllah Khair. So the thing is that there was a training, because when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prepared these Sahaba for this. Now, what happened was, there was the sister of the case, as I said, that some Sahaba would go and train new Muslims. So the sister of Umar radiallahu anhu was getting training, and her husband Sa'id was being trained in the house by Khubab ibn it was Gharat, if I'm pronouncing. Huh? Okay. Oh, Arad, it's Alaf. So Khubab ibn al-Arad, he was training them when the Umar radiallahu anhu surprised them, and he entered, and You may know about the incident because it's really famous. And he, over there, he accepted Islam too. And then it went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then once these trainings happened and the Sahaba were trained, actually it was for the second phase, when the da'wah goes public. For that, the Sahaba should be prepared. They should be intellectually prepared to be able to challenge any thought, anything in the society, and then be able to give them the alternatives. Like for example, if the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, leave the idol worshipping, leave it, but that was not the only thing. You have to also follow the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to stop burying your daughters. You have to stop treating your women as animals. You have to stop dealing with riba. You have to sell by small stones and buy big stones. You have to do this and that, and there's this tribal issues, this asabiyya, and everything was challenged. Instead, the alternatives were given. The alternative was that you have to treat the woman with respect. Your daughters, you should not bury them because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them the rizq, and it's a qatl and stuff like that. So all the alternatives. And so if a social system was challenged, as an alternative, another social system was represented. If economic system was challenged, another economic system was presented as an alternative. If the ruling system, which was Dar al-Nadwa, what is Dar al-Nadwa? In Dar al-Nadwa, there are some people are coming together, and they are deciding upon the affairs of the people. They are bringing new rules and new regulations and new laws. So Dar al-Nadwa, actually these few people decide upon the future of the situation of the people. So this was the ruling system. And these high-class people are deciding the fate of these people in the society. So as an alternative to that, first this was challenged, and then as an alternative to that, this was brought that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hukum would be implemented upon all of us in our daily life. So everything was challenged, and an alternative was presented. This was the whole training the Sahaba got before they go to the public campaign. So this was all used, and this was all done in the Dar al-Arqam, and Sahaba were trained there. And then when the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arrived, they had to go for the second stage. Our next discussion, inshallah, would be about how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prepared or built up the Sahaba in their personalities. Inshallah, we will discuss it, and who accepted Islam as the first 40 people, and how they went to the second stage, or the public campaign of Islam. So I would, as I said, 20 minutes, so I don't want to make it longer. If there's any question, inshallah.
Now the question comes, JazzakAllah Khair. Some ordinary people will ask, when there is a prophet along with the angel Jibreel, which he can utilize and ask him, why he made the da'wah secret?
First of all, I'm one of those people who I will not use my analogy in it. I will say it was the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't do anything out of his own. It was the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it should be secret, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it. The second thing was, if I try to use my analogy, which cannot be perfect, it can be just a ta'bir, just interpretation. But in my view, he was preparing Sahaba for a tough time to come. Because for every championship that you go, you have to have a training. You have to build up the muscles and everything for it. For them, there should be an intellectual leadership built in them. The personalities become Islamic. So if the tough time comes, they do not give up. And this is why when the Sahaba face the toughest time, their parents are being killed in front of them and they are still standing on Islam. This was what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was doing.
Well, the ulama said that Rasul and even Jibreel alayhi salam, they have taken the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like I give you an example. Jibreel was talking to Rasul about Musa and how many years he stayed with Shu'aib to get his wife. Because in the Quran it's mentioned. Now you might ask yourself, well, Jibreel, he was attending that occasion. He should have told, when Rasul asked him, is Akhi Musa stayed 10 years or 9 years? So what he said, I have to go back and ask Allah. So you might ask your question, well, Jibreel, he was attending that occasion. Why he didn't tell her? He can say, oh yeah, I was around. True? Because he was around. But here's very important in deen, that the relationship has to come from Allah. So he has to go back, although he knows Jibreel. Because he was around when Musa, he stayed 10 years. True? But he didn't. He said, I have to ask Allah, take permission. Why? Because this is important for us in Islam to know it is 10 years or 9. Jibreel will not know. True? So he has to take permission. But he knows the fact it was 10 years. It's the same for the da'wah secret. Rasul he goes with the order. So until the ayah came, وَانْذَرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, he didn't start. Because he knew from day one that Allah will protect him. True? But he didn't start it until he heard the order. وَانْظَرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, start talking. But before that, so it's everything, it is calculated. And everything, it is written in Bayt al-Ma'mur from the beginning, that the Quran, the whole Quran was written before even Prophet Muhammad created. But it came in stages. But this is one of them.
Yeah, so
about the secret period which you are talking about today.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, I said it in the first.
We learn from each other.
Yeah.
And myself, when I was reading, I learned this in the religious schools. I was wondering, as a young person, Jibreel was around when he was, because Musa alayhi salam is a Nabi, true? So he saw him, he stayed 10 years. How come he didn't tell the Rasul when he asked him, what happened to Musa? Did he stay 10 or 9 years? He said, no, I have to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and also in the case of that Rabbi who came to Rasulullah and said, I have 3 questions, and Rasulullah said, before you come, Jibreel Amin brought me the answers. He said, no, don't listen to him, because he's one of those bad malak. And said, no, the malak do not do anything of their own. It's all they are following the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as I said, Rasulullah didn't make it public because it was the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the ayah came that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَاسْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرُ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, that was the time then Rasulullah had to go open, because it was the hukm. Even if Sahaba were not ready, he had to go because it was the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't leave anything imperfect, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had received all the orders slowly, and Sahaba were ready, alhamdulillah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the hukm.
And of course, I think I like the way when you were talking about training with the Sahaba. Because when you look at the 3 major religions, this is the only religion which is being taken over by Sahaba. The Quran, we heard about it from the Sahaba. Rasulullah, that's the way. Compared with the other religion, all the other religion, they were taken by their prophet. Their prophet, they were doing the business. When they are in trouble, they would call Jibreel and he would do the action. But with the Rasulullah, no, 90% of the action was done through the training of the Sahaba. So that's why it has to continue until the day of judgment. And those religions, they have to stop, because their action, you look at Shu'aib, you look at Musa, all of them, they need the help. And the help comes and do the punishment. Qawm Lut, punishment. Qawm Shu'aib, punishment. Qawm Salih, Qawm Hud, all of them, punishment. Did he use Sahaba to punish? No, he used Allah right away. But probably you will come later. All the fighting, all Ila Kalimatullah came through the Sahaba with the help of Allah.
Yeah, like Rasulullah didn't need the advice of Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu.
Exactly.
But because it was a training and process, he had to be with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was the part of the whole training that Abu Bakr Siddiq who was doing that. Like imagine when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes away, what happens? The whole of the people turns away from Islam. Exactly what happened with other the religions of other Anbiya. But Abu Bakr Siddiq says, no, I'm decisive. He takes decisive actions and finishes everything. Everyone has to come back to Islam. It doesn't matter what. Even Umar who was advising him not to do it, but he said, no, I'm gonna do it. Any other questions?
Umar became Muslim by this time?
Yeah, because he was one of those lost Sahaba who, when after, this was the time that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made public, made dua in front of Sahaba that, Ya Allah, support me with one of those two Umarain. So one was Abu Jahl, because he was called Abu Hakam because he was one of the smartest guys of the Quraysh. He was leading Quraysh, but because of his Jahl, he was named as Abu Jahl. He was really strong. He was really firm person. The second person as wise and who was challenging actually Abu Jahl was Umar who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this, he dignified him with Islam, and Abu Jahl died with the Jahl. So when the time Umar who accepted Islam, he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, aren't we on haqq? Isn't this deen true? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said yes. Then said, why we are sitting in secret? And Umar who was a kind of dignified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that each time he was suggesting something, this was 14 times I think, that when he was suggesting something, an ayah will come in support of his suggestion. So this time when Umar who asked this from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the ayah also came, and they went out and they said it they started the famous incident of the tawaf with La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That was a public campaign. You say La ilaha illallah means all of your gods are nothing. Muhammad Rasulullah means Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sent to rule upon you, because your rulers are no longer accepted. So it was a political message, and it was carried the day Umar who suggested.
That story that the way Hazrat Umar became Muslim, right? Somebody told him that he was very against Islam, right? Somebody told him your sister became a Muslim, your mother-in-law and sister.
Yeah.
So that story is true, right? He went home.
Yeah, he actually was looking around in the society. He was not one of those who would hate Islam just because he hates Islam. He was against the division in society. What happened with Islam, when the message was carried, people started brothers are divided, the families are divided, son is against the father is against the son. Now there's a big dispute going on in the society. At this time, even though it's not public, but your personality shows you that you are different than your family members, and you are different than yesterday. So what happens is that Umar, the clashes, Umar who sees it, and he comes and says, well, I'm going to finish this whole thing. When he goes to the way of house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it happens that the one Sahaba, actually, he was a Sahaba, he goes in front of him, he thinks how to divert him from this way. So he said, okay, first go and deal with your sister. So he was so angry, he went to his sister. Before he enters, he listens the recitation of Quran. His heart becomes, softened by recitation of that. When he enters, everyone is afraid and they run away, because the Khubab, he runs away, he hides. So now he is asking for the Quran to see. The sister says no, and then he beats them. The sister still resists. And then what happens is, says, no, I want to look at it. He said, no, go, you are dirty. Go, and I should say dirty, or if it's the correct word, if it says najas, yeah. Yeah, you are not pure. So you have to wash yourself, take ghusl and come back. Yeah. So he takes a ghusl and comes back, and then look at it. He comes beats them. And the sister still resists and said, no, you have to take shower or make ghusl and come back. And he does. And some of the riwayat says even the water was flowing from his hair when he came to take the ayat, and he recites it and he accepts Islam.
So, another question comes, right? At this time, is the Quran was in some written form?
They were writing it. They didn't have paper because paper was really expensive and it was coming from China, so they were writing it on
the skin of animals.
Yeah.
It is right. Like Umar himself, he is one of those who can read and write. There is some Sahaba. What happened in the Dar al-Nadwa, like the parliament of Mecca? Dar al-Nadwa, they have two groups. They have the old senior guys. Those are the guys who talk about 100% of the time. Then there is the young people who are the people for action. And one of the young people is Umar. Umar is about 36, 37 at that time. Young, and he's by far the tallest person in Mecca. He's very tall. You can come to a gathering and you see him. That's Umar, very tall. When he rides the horse, his leg touching. He has to raise them, touching the ground. So Umar was like the military. So those guys, they decide, we're gonna hit today. Here is Bilal. Go and hit him. Umar, he's the one who will go. So there is young people within Dar Nadwa. Those guys for hitting, for punishing whoever comes to Islam. They started with the poor people. Then they started also with the others who are from tribes, like from Mecca itself, from Quraysh. So this is the Mecca dictatorship. So it has their military like Umar. Like Abu Jahl, he was a little bit older than Umar. So he's the guy who talks. But Umar doesn't talk too much, but he's the guy who hits. So even when you look at the seerah, Umar always, when Rasulullah talking about anything, he will raise his sword right away. Let me kill that person, let me kill. But later, subhanAllah, he became very wise and etc. But he is the hand used to be for Quraysh for hitting.
Yeah, one thing about the training, Rasulullah ﷺ didn't change the behavior of the people. Rasulullah ﷺ didn't make Abu Bakr Siddiq to be more harder than the way he was, or make Abu Bakr Umar who softer the way, like from what he was really hard and tough on people. He didn't do it. What he did was he actually turned their personalities to Islamic one. So now they are tough, but they are tough on the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Abu Bakr who is the same soft person, but the way he is now using the softness to influence people, the way I listed the Sahaba who came, like Uthman who came by Abu Bakr. So his softness now works for those people who comes with softness, and Umar who is for those who are trying to, like imagine Umar who doesn't sit at home, even though it's not public, he just goes and knocks the doors of Abu Jahl and others and stands in front of Dar Nadwa, hey Quraysh, I have accepted Islam. He doesn't sit quiet. So the personality is still the same. It's just switched to Islamic one.
And that's why you see Rasulullah one time said, خيركم في الجاهلية خيركم في الإسلام. The best among you during the Jahiliyyah, the ignorance, they are the best in Islam too. Like Umar radiallahu anhu, he was the hitting person during Jahiliyyah, and he was the hitting person during Islam too. So they used that tactic again. His force was used in Islam, no doubt about it. Yeah. And his bravery and strength. He's the only Sahabi when he made Hijrah. Even Rasulullah he made it secretly. True? He's the only one who came. If you went to Mecca for Hajj, there is big mountain close to Mecca. You know those black mountain. He came in the top of the mountain. He's a tall. His voice very loud. And he came. He said, "I'm leaving to Medina. Is there anybody wanna be killed? Come and follow me." He didn't make it, during the night or during the day when everybody was in Mecca sitting. He told them, and he was riding his horse, "I am going to Medina following Islam. If anybody wanna be killed and his wife will not have him anymore, and his kids won't have him anymore, come and try to prevent me." And nobody even come. The whole Quraysh, and he left.
question, if you don't mind. Actually, this is the first time I take this opportunity. That was mentioned here about the education of Umar, whether he could read and write. Yes. So, what was the education system at that time in Mecca? You know, if there was an official education system, because Muhammad Mustafa at that time he was illiterate.
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. What happened? Those who had parents and they were quite wealthy, usually they learned. Rasul he was orphan, so he was poor. And during his early life, he was with Halim al-Sa'diyah, then he was a shepherd, so he was poor, so he didn't have a chance to learn how to write and read. And everybody in Mecca, they know that. Because he was orphan, who would take him, and you have to pay money because only few people who know how to write, especially the Christian and some of the Jew in Mecca, so they will teach you how to write and how to read. But most of the people, they are not, although they are very good in Arabic language. They can stand from Fajr until Maghrib saying poetry without a single mistake. So in language, they are very articulate, very strong, and they might not read and write. And one of the other things they have, if they hear anything, like they hear 3 pages of poetry, it goes right away. Most of them, not all, but most of them. And if you say any poetry, even 300 years, they will tell you, this poetry said so-and-so by so-and-so far away. So they are very, when it comes to literature, it comes to poetry, etc., they are very, very strong. That's why the Quran, the miracle, is the language. Because you are talking to a people who can speak one word and it means a lot of things. So you have to bring someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, someone who can really convince them. You are talking about, like you go to the university here and you sit with people who have like Basil, they have PhD in microbiology. You need someone to talk about microbiology who's stronger than them. And that's what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is not even, know how to write and read. And he can't even say shi'r. Throughout his life, he never said one single shi'r, poetry. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made his tongue doesn't say shi'r, period. So, but still, when he talked, as he said, what's that mean? That all the language was in his tongue by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when he sit and talk to them, that's why Al-Mughira, probably maybe we'll talk about it one time, Al-Mughira, he's the master of poetry in Mecca. He told Meccan people, let me talk to him. He can't. They told him he had some thing he's reading. He said, the Quran. So he said, oh, that's good. So this guy can read him. So he came and sat with him. And Mughira is famous in Arabia. He sat with him, and when he heard the Quran, so he was reading verses from the Quran, he was astonished. He couldn't talk. He said, when he backed off, he said, this is magic. Because I have never heard anything stronger than this language, he said. And Rasulullah he said, you have to believe this. He said, no. And he ran away. He said, this is magic. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give him the hidayah. That's all. Otherwise, like you are an educated person, you will respect education. So he knows language. And the Quran is a miracle of language. He should have accepted it. But subhanAllah, he went to Jahannam. And this is one of the people who killed in Badr.
That's another question. When you
I interfere with you.
Oh, no. That's what my request was from society, from community, that all of us should come together because we are learning from each other. Inshallah.
Yeah, it's a genius of history. When you read the Quran,
Yeah.
you become hafid, even younger. And even you do not understand, but the entire Quran, you can come, you are hafid. Even you don't have how to write Arabic, or you never read anything, and you never go to school at all, and even nobody's people, it's easy to your body can go inside to remember the whole. If you go to chemistry, biology books, thousands, you still you need to follow by prayer. Allah, mashallah, the Quran is not something, now we say it's Allah makes our body to record quickly, especially when they are youngest. And I was just following my old, and I have my sons when they were young. I brought them to another countries to reading, and they very quickly to capture the whole Quran. When you come a little bit older, it's a little bit try.
But always remember,
Yes.
when you talk about Quran, subhanallah, remember that this Quran, when it's revealed up in the Arsh, this is Kalamullah. This is, one of the adjectives of Allah, Kalam. And Allah is stronger than us. True? So anything from Allah is stronger. And the proof for that, one time, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was riding the camel, going back to Medina. And Angel Jibreel came to him with some verses. At that time, when he was riding, so he was revealing some verses to him. The camel couldn't handle it. The foot of the camel went deep because of the weight of the word. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for us so we can read it and can memorize it. But this is very heavy words. Very, very heavy words. Other creatures, they can't handle it. It's very strong, very powerful. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الذِّكْرَ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy because this is His word. So make it easy, we can talk about it and read some ayat, etc. But in reality, this is very powerful. And other creatures, they can't even handle it. It's too much for them. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for us. So we can read and we see the Shaykh read and Fatiha, etc. But when you look at it, they are powerful.
Yeah. For two things. First of all, in support of his word, like if you go to the smartest lawyer or anyone, you will see the books are there. If the books are not there, he is not a lawyer. With Hafiz, you just go and ask him, he just tells you. Just tells you which ayah. You just give the meaning, he will tell you the ayah. This is the mu'jiza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing about this, the weight of Quran itself, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if I send it on, what is the strongest in this earth? The mountain. There is nothing as strong as mountain, because the mountain itself, if mountain is not there, the world is shaky. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if I have sent it on the mountains, they will just blast, they will not stand.
There are many secrets actually about the Quran that especially me, I don't know all the secrets, but it's obvious, yes. Because there is a scientist in Afghanistan, people who are from Afghanistan, they know him or they heard about him. His name is Sidi Satran. So he's a mathematic, but his level is very high in the world. It's world recognized. So what he did in one of his interviews, I watched that interview. So he looked at Quran from the point of view of mathematics, and he, according to what he said, like everything is very well calculated in Quran from the point of view of mathematics. All the surahs and ayats and the whole Quran. I don't remember all those things, but Quran is revealed in such a way that there is no room for deleting any word from it or adding any word to it, because it says you were talking like it will lose its the balance, so there is no room for it, and that's one of the mu'jiza of the Quran, from thousands of other mu'jizas that it has, because today, after 14 centuries or more, we still have the same Quran without any different or any errors or stuff.
Yeah, but your question, you said people, they memorize it and they don't even know the meaning of the Quran, and they don't do mistakes. And you see some non-Arab, they memorize it in a perfect way. And you might ask yourself, why that happened? Yeah, there is a mercy to that person, of course. What will happen? The Quran will stay until the day of judgment. So imagine tomorrow the superpower on this earth burn all the papers, burn all the CDs, burn all, but they can't burn hearts. Still the Quran will continue. So there will be at least few people somewhere will transfer that Quran by memorization to another. Then there will be a time when the Islam comes, but the Quran will stay, continue. So that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it. Well, Allah can bring the book, nobody can touch it. Same like He protected Kaaba from Habash through. But this is the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala barakah. So it will continue by us. So there will be a group of people, Allah knows, maybe in India, maybe somewhere, and everywhere else Muslim will be wiped out. Still that group will transfer the Quran. Because there is no another prophet. It is done. The last prophet is Muhammad.
Yeah,
So
that's
there
why.
is-
That's
so
why
it will continue.
That's why in this century now, some you go as far in Africa, there is no ink, and there is no paper,
Exactly.
and there is no wood to writing. But the sheikh sitting here, just
Yes, yeah. I
and
met
reading,
people, you know, in Libya.
and at night time
they
you
don't
take
know
it
how to
out.
write. They memorize
When you don't
Quran.
have a book, you going with him. You just reading, you just put it here,
Exactly, yeah.
you just keep it going night time. You just keep it, come back tomorrow for the sheikh, and they memorize the whole Quran, never reading one letter.
Nah, yeah.
No, like look at our children. My nephew has memorized the 38 juz, and he doesn't know what's alif ba. He doesn't know how to write. He just memorizes it.
This is the miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you never see it in Torah, in Injil. Even the big priests hardly can memorize maybe one quarter. They can't. Because it is mixed. True and non-true verses, etc. So that's why the heart doesn't accept it. So, subhanallah.
Any other question, inshallah?
JazzakAllah khair.
JazzakAllah khair for coming and JazzakAllah for.
I'm sorry, I interfered with you.
No.